I think we've seen a really noticeable change in the environment generally. I think as a headline, the schemes that were infinitely viable 3 to 5 years ago in their initial states, looking at it the same way now, they no longer are. And then there's a whole host of reasons behind that I think principally used to operate relatively in isolation, and now are all sort of compounding together and hitting at the same time. If you think about the key components of a scheme, the cost profile and the increasing or inflating of costs across supply chain, materials, and you add to that the regulatory burden, Building Safety Act, requirements of ESG compliance, add into that the planning process and the time it's taken to get through, building safety, sign off, and then into planning, and then through that process with local authorities, which is longer than it ever has been. And then financing, availability of financing, which I think it's still available, it's just more expensive. And when people are looking at schemes factoring all these things in, they're actually looking at schemes that were comfortably viable. Margins are even more squeezed, and it's adding a huge amount of risk to any projects. It's partly just the economic environment and the various things that have happened in the UK and the world over the last 3 to 5 years. The challenges in the economy, coupled with some absolutely needed changes to building safety regulations based on improving the quality and safety of what people are building. So when you're looking at the financing options available, like I said before, there is finance available. There are people willing to lend into these projects. The returns they require are higher. The margins on the contracts have always been thin, and therefore this erodes the margin to a level where I think that the developers, the contractors, the deliverers of the schemes, that there's no scope for any shocks, if that makes sense, as in something doesn't quite go right. Recovery from the customer of additional works or variations is difficult. Something that just goes wrong in normal course of business that normally the contractor would absorb, i.e. having to, redig, rebuild, you knock something down, all takes a bit longer. There's nothing left as sort of a buffer before that thin margin becomes zero, break even, or negative. What people are doing, there's a lot of people with land banks, i.e. sites that were purchased not just 3 to 5 years ago, before that were either speculative, as in it's a good deal at the time, no immediate plans to do anything with, or sites that had a more immediate timeline with a viable project that had been through design, it had been through spec, it may even have got to planning. People don't want to do them because the cost of delivery of those schemes, especially where they've been delayed, has increased so much that when you do the project appraisal and you look at what your return, I guess, kind of needs to be, or your desired return, if it's not high enough, people will not go ahead, and they're waiting sort of for the market to bounce, things to stabilise, to give a better return on what they do. Schemes definitely are still viable, either an alternative way of delivery, or where a scheme was, say, meant to be for 1,000 units, I'll exaggerate, it may become viable at 800 because you may not have to do X, Y, Z. And what it is doing is it's almost encouraging or requiring people to apply a more detailed level of oversight to the projects because of the risk profile. It won't be seen as this at the moment, I don't think, but the good governance and the good practices that are having to be introduced to get to a point where you're prepared to go ahead are probably beneficial for the industry in the longer term, in that they should stick. So when the world is an easier place and when the market is more open and the schemes are naturally a bit more viable again, hoping we get to that place, you would hope that the governance and the extra diligence and the reviews before determining stick or twist, I guess, in terms of a project, are still applied, and that will benefit everybody, I think.